All right. How's everyone doing today? Hope everyone's doing well. We got Daniel up here. We're going to get Rick up here shortly. For those of you who don't know me, I am Kyle, and I'm the founder of the Swap. And we have Daniel, my co-host, with me today. Daniel, when you're ready, if you could give a little bit of an introduction on yourself. Hey, Doug. How's it going?
Yep. Hey, everybody. A lot of you guys know me. My name is Daniel. I am a contributor of the Outpost project, and I'm happy to be here today with everyone.
I see Rick in the crowd right now. I'm going to invite you to co-host. Probably have like a couple minutes till this gets packed up. This was our biggest set of reminders so far for Twitter Spaces. So thank you all, for contributing to, setting reminders and allowing us to do this space. Before we really get started, it is appreciated if you could either like, share, repost, retweet, and comment on the thread in the post here so we can get more awareness about the Twitter space. That way we can bring more eyes and ears to our speaker here, Rick, and Discover and what they're doing on the internet computer. So.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely happy to have you, Rick. We've been talking quite a bit lately, and super thrilled to have you on. Obviously, like you're a massive project on the internet computer with big plans for the near future, and just really blessed to have you on. And I know Daniel's excited as well. Basically, this is our largest space, so thank you for contributing to that.
Yeah, no problem. Definitely excited. I think this is interesting. We've been talking about doing spaces on Discover. Maybe we'll talk about a little bit later about how this will work. But it's good to sit here and play with the UI and see how everything works.
Yeah, I was before we even got started, I was talking with Daniel like last hour or so, and I was like, I wonder if he's going to mention the Discover thing for Spaces. And I was like, this is probably his first space that he's been on, so he's going to see it firsthand, like how it works and how it goes. And I did see something about Super Spaces. It was like an analytics for Twitter Spaces, which is kind of something that I mentioned to you about. So like for the people that kind of do engagements, like the like, happy face 100, all the reactions and stuff, it actually is tracked on a platform already. So yeah, just really curious to see like, the future growth of just both like how this audio industry is going to pan out.
Yeah, same. And I think like, especially when you're working in Web3, it's like you got to get that feature parity going. But once you have feature parity going with Web2, it's got to figure out like what value does Web3 actually bring, and it doesn't bring value at all. So it's always like that. It's always an open question, and I think especially with like when introducing Web3 features to like existing Web2 primitives, it's an open book. Like you can take it in pretty much any direction. I don't think there's one single answer ever.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I'm sure Daniel does too. Is like there's literally so many things that can happen, and it almost feels like if you start a project, you end up tweaking it to fit like the needs of everything that is possibly needed in the crypto space or Web3 space.
UI UX is definitely something you feel out over time. You'll never ever get it right on the first try.
Yeah, for sure.
So for everyone that's tuned in, we will kind of have some questions that we have a Q&A with Rick here before we allow other people up. But we are more than happy to take your questions. So if you do have questions, please voice them in the thread below. And again, if you could like or retweet the space, so we can give more attention to our guest here. That would be greatly appreciated. So in this space, we're going to talk about some features that Discover is going to be rolling out and kind of give an introduction of what Discover really is and what we might be able to see in the future. So, Daniel, if you'd like to roll out the first of the questions.
Yeah, man. For some of the new people out here, can you tell us a little bit more about what Discover is and what it serves as for Web3?
Yeah, absolutely. Discover High Level is a decentralized social network running on top of the internet computer. And right now, it's a community building tool. It means that people can go in, partake in different communities, which we call portals, and they can create their communities, they can maintain their communities, they can establish different types of roles, and within inside of those roles, they can establish different types of um, permissions. And users can go in there and share content. They can gate their communities by NFTs. So meaning you can, have an NFT collection that you've launched, and you can decide only holders of this NFT can actually participate within the community. They can be the only ones posting. Maybe they're the only ones who can upvote, and maybe only everyone else can just comment. But you can create really unique rules all around the ownership of NFTs. And then we have actually all sorts of different tricks with NFTs. Like we could give you a different role relative to how many of the NFTs you own. We can give you different roles relative to types of traits that the NFT has. And I think Poke Studio probably is the one using most of those roles or rules. Like they have traits, trait gates, ownership amount gates, and different things like that. And we were definitely looking into like how would we gate by the ownership of fungible tokens, so not just strictly the non-fungible tokens, and looking at how we can gate different mechanics within inside of Discover. And the gating engine is pretty robust, but we also have the ability to like do all your typical social needs like posting and commenting. We have live comment section, so if you have a specific type of post, you can actually sort the comments by live and have only all the new ones on top. And there's so many other different types of ways that users can interact with their communities. But it's like tipping is something that kind of exists and it keeps on growing. And so that has the ability to take a fungible token and target a user and give them a tip based off of a post or comment that they have. And then there's different types of rules on how that tip is split up. But it all happens on chain. And this is kind of like the power of building with inside of an existing protocol like the internet computer and having everything being native Web3 is that once you get access and start understanding how these primitives work, you can kind of see different ways that they intersect. So you can see how, NFT gating is now just a basic property of accessing content, and then NFT or fungible token tipping is just another one of those primitives that becomes part of the content. Since the content itself is native to Web3, the tips itself can be native to Web3. And so as you like start down this path of building a native Web3 application, you can kind of start seeing how everything fits together. And we get to build, crypto's been around for years, right? And smart contracts have been around for years. So you kind of get all these different types of aspects of how to connect these different systems. And the end result is what you see Discover now. But where Discover is going is still, that story is still being told.
Yeah, I like from where I've first seen Discover to where it is now. Like I've just seen so much just progression overall. Like not even with like I shouldn't say just like what you guys have done, but like the community around it just seems to be rapidly expanding, and I think that's really gonna transpire even more with the features and stuff that you have coming out, which we'll actually have questions about coming up that we have set. But yeah, like Discover just is so unique with the gated portals and allowing it where you can really maintain your own communities in a closed environment and then go explore, other unique parts of I guess the internet computer and like other ecosystems that might be posted on Discover. So it really gives people a good sense of what communities they want to join to, and then it kind of close off from like the I guess the harm that could happen in other portals and stuff. Not to say that there is, but you kind of can control the content that you're viewing in a safe manner, and I really love that with your platform.
Yeah, thank you. There's a couple things that makes me think of. I mean, one is we're approaching 190,000 total users on the platform, and you know, we're looking at like maybe 10 to 15,000 daily active users within that those 800 and almost 190,000 users. So you definitely see like huge amount of content being posted. I mean, on some days you see 20,000 plus posts and comments, 40, 50,000 upvotes in a single day. And it's just, when you look at those numbers, it's just insane. And the growth is insane too. You definitely see that network effect. I mean, when we originally created Discover, a lot of the, I would say, growth content came from us, meaning like we were posting or commenting and really creating the engagement on the platform. And then eventually you got users who started creating content on their own and started sharing it and posting it. And, we see, I think, daily 100,000 plus backlinks coming into Discover, created on Discover and being shared on different platforms. So that's just like how SEO rendering those specific types of components. Like if you're sharing a post on Twitter, how many renders that actually happens and how many requests that does is, also another metric that we're trying to track better. But, on heavy days, it's, SNS1 launch, for example, the site maxed out right there. We were looking at 20, 30,000 users on the platform, and it just taught us so much. Like, oh, okay, well, here's some mistakes that we were making. Here's ways we can improve that. And, as we make all those improvements, you see the platform and other areas start to, a lot of usage increase. And it's like, sometimes you just don't know what's wrong until you have all those users show up, which is like, Web3.
Yeah, so that actually leads me into a bit of a curiosity. So I know that recently, like, Dfinity has been helping larger projects scale across multiple subnets because of like maximum amount of users or canisters or something to do with in general scalability. Do you guys have a plan moving forward for maximizing the scalability?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, first of all, multi-subnet is definitely the way to go. I mean, you'll max out a single subnet eventually, right? And even if you have 1 million canisters or whatever the maximum is, the subnet itself still has some sort of restrictions. And we were single canister for a very long time, and the actual data size of Discover is, in the gigabytes. It's not in the tens of gigabytes as far as just raw content. Like posts and comments, they're not really that big, right? It's just when you get into like assets like images and video and audio, that's when you see the exponential growth in the amount of data required to support the network. But definitely multi-canister approach was something we've already explored. Now it's really thinking, okay, how do we go multi-subnet? And how would we do that in real time? Would we do that? Like, how would we actually scale through that is the real question. Like an example is Discover is made up of portals, right? And those portals obviously fit into their own canister, and then those canisters scale on their own. But like at the one point, one of these portals is going to grow to the same size as Discover it is right now and have the same amount of activity. So it's like, how do we move that canister that contains that portal into its own subnet? And architecturally, it makes a lot of sense, but there's always challenges. Like what cross subnet communication is a little bit slower. So it's like, how will we work around those problems and solve them? But like, I think every problem we always thought we might have, right? We've always overcome it. Any problem we run into, we've always overcome it. And there's always a solution, is what I'm trying to say. So it's just like, as we dive into that problem, we're probably going to be like, okay, here's a potential risk area, and how do we de-risk ourselves? And there's going to be unknowns, And when we run into that wall, we'll just work with Definity and help solve that problem. They'll help us solve that problem with them. But Definity's been really great about helping us understand different problems that we might run into, and we've been very open with the problems that we've been running into and different solutions that we've had. So I definitely see it as a really mutually beneficial relationship.
That's that's awesome, and I'm super happy to hear that you guys are overcoming those things, because those are things we're gonna continue to run into. And I think the better that projects get in understanding those problems that you'll get at scale, versus in the beginning with trying to build the infrastructure or architecture, you'll reach things at scale. Like I said, these UI UX things even that you just never really thought about. And it's good to hear that Definity is also getting in practice with helping projects overcome those in the best way possible. So it's awesome that you guys are holding that relationship, and I think that you guys are definitely capable of uh, even I don't want to say front running, but like definitely being on the top of and even one of the first to get those solutions in place. So I'm really excited to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. The developers there have been great. I mean, everyone at Definity's been great to communicate with, but the developers have been helping us talk through some of the problems that we've been facing, and usually we come up with a solution and test it live. And I mean, so far the site's been performing a lot better than it ever has, and we've been seeing higher growth than we've ever have. So it's really encouraging to know that we can grow right now probably 5 or 10x before we start facing a lot of more major issues. And that'll, we used to be like, oh, that'll be 1 month away or 2 months away, but that's so unknown now. Like sometimes it's days away. You just have these big growth moments. A big project shows up, and there's a lot of different type of meta that happens. But you got to face it and work through the problems as a team. But and that's the interesting thing. A social platform has an unbelievable amount of meta involved with the different problems you'll run into.
I mean, that's amazing, and I'm just super happy you guys are, you're definitely dedicated to overcoming them. It sounds like that's a really strong thing to have where you guys are, because that's just, I mean, I think you guys are going to do great with that, with the scaling.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the engineers are loving it, because you get to solve really obscure problems that are actual practical. They have practical solutions that are being used in production. It's not in theory. It's like you develop something and then you get to push it in production and see what happens. But like the way the IC is built, we can upgrade, right? But we can also be like, oh, right, that didn't work. Let's change things up and push another upgrade out and see how it goes. But we've overcome so many challenges with upgradability at this point, that it used to be this huge process. I mean, if I don't even know what my heart rate would have been back in the day when we used to do upgrades, but definitely my whole heart was pumping as hard as possible. But I think the last couple upgrades, it's been it works, and then just kind of walking away from it instead of like having this panic moment of did anything fall apart. So we're definitely in a lot better position than we were a year ago.
Yeah, Rick, I have something that might actually touch into like what you might have been feeling with like the rush of doing upgrades and stuff. When you guys got your funding from Polychain, I'm sure that had to be a pretty whirlwind experience of emotions with getting that first round of funding. Can you give the crowd here a little bit of a backstory to how that process went, and maybe any tips for future projects that might be going through something with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, fundraising is a process, period, right? I think we had a great relationship with Polychain going into it, and we had a lot of, there was a lot of back and forth of like understanding how to raise for Discover, and how do we actually do the legalese of a decentralized organization in the future. But I think a lot of it was just that open communication, being really transparent with the numbers and the growth, and really showing them how the usage of the platform will change over time, and how this funding could really get us to that next level. And there's a lot of been a proof in that too. Pre-funding, I don't even know our daily actives. At the time, I probably would have memorized them, but they were definitely not as high. And through the funding, once that funding came in, it was this moment of like, wow, this is like we could really build an amazing team behind this. Like we could make this as real as an organization as possible. And we just began building really concrete internal principles and processes to make sure that we could handle a large team. And the hiring is an intense process. I actually couldn't even tell you hundreds of candidates we went through to build the current team that we have. It's hard. It's hard to find people willing to take a chance on Web3, but let alone an unknown, all the unknown possibilities of what Web3 can actually be. But we're very fortunate with the team that we're able to build, and the team is amazing, right? We've completely restructured a lot of our different systems and processes because of the team that we have. But when that funding came in, it was just like, it was almost unbelievable of like how much work had to be done to make sure that we could live up to the expectations of making Discover as successful as possible.
Yeah, and I can vouch your team works their butt off, because sometimes Doug's here, and like he'll respond to me at like 1 a.m. in the morning my time. Like I'm always hitting him up. I'm like, hey, like what if this feature happened or this happened? And even included, like I'm always up. Like I'm always like trying to speak with other founders and stuff. And you guys have been phenomenal with the stuff that I've presented to you, and kind of working off of the feedback and so forth. So shout out to your team. Seriously, like you guys have been great. I don't even know how many like current team members you have, if you want to kind of go in depth about that, like how many kind of grew from the funding process or whatever from there.
Yeah, I think we're at about 13 or 14 total folks that are part of Discover. And just Doug, since Doug is here, Doug is like a one in a billion, an unbelievable hire. We're always super appreciative to have him on the team. He's done such a great job with working with the community and helping on the platform. So yeah, he's been an amazing hire, an amazing member of the team. So very thankful for Doug. And we have a pretty sizable now engineering team. 3 on the front end, 2 to 3 on the back end. I do still do quite a bit of back end, but our Leif and Chandra, our 2 back end engineers, are on a whole nother level. I think they saw Discover and a lot of the code I wrote and rewrote most of it within like a month, and then started iterating quickly beyond the capabilities of myself and Tyler and Sean, who are on the front end. They just crank, right? They're always trying to figure out different types of ways to optimize and improve the user experience. We have a great design team, Zara and Frank, and they really want to push things to the next level. I really think we're going to see, and Jay, who's running product, he's probably going to take things to a whole nother level. I think there's going to be, I don't want to leak too much. I'm already talking about the Twitter zone, the Twitter spaces, right? But I think there's going to be some significant improvements to the Discover product itself, to really allow a user to establish themselves on the platform, and a whole host of performance improvements, whole host of them. I do think like we've figured so much about and understood so much about the user leading up to this point, that it's been a whole experience. And then I don't know if you guys know, there's the Juan who's in here. He's one of the founders, chief strategy officer. We have who's got a deep social background. He's been, very behind the scenes, making sure that we make a lot of right decisions as far as how do we address like what happens in social, what happens in the traditional social, and he's got a deep product background himself too. So he's definitely making sure we follow a lot of the processes required to like, how do we think through these problems? And I don't know if Alex is here, but Alex, extremely analytical, extremely brilliant human being who's he runs operations, but also he's got an eye for design. So he's definitely been involved a lot with the process and making, probably with the modern site you see right now, came a lot through him and the designer working together, trying to flush out like what does the next gen of Discover look like. And it takes a while to hire. I mean, it's not like you just get funding and it's like, cool, we got funding, and then you hit a button and a whole team shows up, right? you gotta interview, and not everybody comes in the right order either too. You might, the ideal scenario is probably get product in place and then start bringing on designers. But so, it doesn't always work like that in a startup. So we finally have like our Gen 1 team really rolling and starting to get more and more product releases out. But I think the next generation of Discover is really going to try to address, what is Web3 social, like and I think we've made a lot of headway in whole new experiences on Discover. And from a decentralized social perspective, we're doing a lot of things that a lot of other platforms are doing right now, which is really motivating when people address that and point that out to us. But I do think there's I always talk about the next level, and maybe that's what I'll always be. It's like pushing for that next level. But I do think there's a whole nother level to this game that we're about to unlock that I think will really address what Web3 social could be.
Yeah, I love that. And with that next level, is there like anything that you see that's kind of like missing from like the community members? I shouldn't word it like that because that kind of sounds bad. But is there anything that you would like to see like from the community members as far as like content and portals and stuff to kind of really ramp up like what kind of growth could come to Discover? Like for instance, like I brought the gaming portal, and like there's a bunch of YouTubers and stuff that do DIY content and stuff like that. Like, is there something that you see that could be like a major uptick in like user growth for Discover?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think those are amazing communities. And a lot of the times when we're talking about Discover and talking it with other people, we bring up these communities and show them what people are creating. And I do think it's like continuing, if I could give any direction to the user, it's like continue to experiment with the format of it, right? Try to figure out different ways to use the platform, different ways to engage with the user. And that's kind of what sometimes happens. Like, I'm not a huge fan of like, hey, creating a post and then link your wallet and we'll airdrop you. It does bring in a lot of users, but there's like two ways to look at it. One, it brings the engagement, but on the other hand, it's like, what is the content that is being created? But it's also an interesting way to use the format. Like, who would have thought like creating a post and then having everyone put in their wallet address was a way to a piece of content that would exist on Discover. But I also think like NFT gating and things like that came out of unusual ways people trying to use the platform. And so those are the kind of things that help us actually see, okay, here's a need and here's how people are trying to use it. Now, how do we kind of work with them to figure out different ways they can use the platform and achieve the same goal? And DAOs and polls, I can't remember what the genesis of polls were, but there was definitely like this moment of like, hey, I need to like ask the community a question, and people were creating threads around like asking obscure questions to the community, and we're like, well, okay, obviously this is a poll, which is a crypto or a social primitive. Polls exist on social platforms, right? So it's like understanding new ways that people can engage with the users, and we're doing them one of them right now in this Twitter space. Audio chat, having this conversation, having this like soapbox. This is another part of social that's becoming a primitive, where people can live stream a conversation and talk to a community. So, and these are feature parodies for us. Like, if we really want Web3 social to be successful, at times it's reaching parity with what is possible in Web2 social. So it's and it's forever evolving. It's always evolving, right? And I think like NFTs still, there's so much more to unlock with how NFTs work on Discover. And there was a huge push. Man, was that this year? God, time flies so fast. Was it this year when we did the wallets? I don't remember. But we did a little research and we're like, okay, so we have the Discover airdrops, and we worked with Entrepot to make it simple that if you mint on Entrepot, it can automatically show up on Discover. And that was just like, it was for the team, it was tough, right? Like, we had to go in there and add a new wallet or update some sort of field to say these wallets exist. And so when they showed up, it was automatically there. And so Entrepot had this service that we could access that would pull in all the wallets. And then over time, we just started pulling on more and more marketplaces. And I haven't looked in a bit, but last time I looked, when we first launched, there were 520 NFTs supported on Discover. And I think it's like 560 at this point or something. But it's like something we just don't think about. But now that we have all these capabilities of NFTs on Discover and understand their standards and how to work with them, we got to make it so they can move easily. There can be more mechanisms for sharing them and trading them or selling them. And so those are things that we look to the developer community like, hey, can you provide a service that does this? And an example of that is like, one is the SNS1 DAO, right? Like, that's not Discover. We didn't like create the SNS1, but you can go on there, and because of the way because SNS1 is obviously all Web3 native and it runs all on chain, and it uses the principles of using principles, the public and private key pair of or your internet identity. We simply just made it so it was part of the front end. And I think people who are building Web3 on IC or other protocols will be able to plug right into those applications via our front end and provide a seamless service and still remain non-custodial for these applications. And that's a huge power to our platform alone, is that we're not in custody of those NFTs sitting in your airdrops. We're not in custody of those fungible tokens sitting in your airdrops. We're not in custody of your neurons, and we're not in custody of your vote. So like, everything you're doing on the platform is a transaction signed by you and performed by you. And I think there's so much more depth to just that alone that we'll see. I think even another example is like SigDAO. SigDAO will probably have voting on that relatively soon. So people will be able to vote on proposals, but the proposals will automatically come into Discover. We were looking at the new some of the new DAO framework by Austin, where I definitely think that's just another example of something that can come right into Discover and be native to the platform, be native to a portal, and allow people to drive decisions within those communities, which then, like, this just is endless, right? But like, then it unlocks treasuries, right? And now you have a treasury that's not in custody of Discover. It's in custody of the DAO that exists within inside of a portal on Discover. And those people with the voting, those tokens have the ability to drive decisions within inside of that DAO, which could impact the treasury. Again, not in custody by Discover, and I think those are like, those are such the powerful social fi mechanics that we're going to continue to iterate on top of, while trying to like put together this a new way of envisioning Web3 social.
So so if I caught that last part right, now that meant that like the portal itself could hold the the wallet integration for the DAO. Did I mishear that, or was that?
Yeah, no, they could. Like, I mean, quite honestly, there's no reason why I couldn't do it now. I do think there needs to be some UI to make that process easier, right? But yeah, I think portals having treasuries is going to happen,
Yeah,
right? And how do the community members drive decisions on those treasuries will most likely happen through these DAOs that are being developed on the IC as we speak right now.
yeah, that kind of blows my mind a little bit because I didn't like one, the account having its own wallet, goes a pretty substantial far like point for what you can do with Discover with like tipping functions and so forth. But the portal itself having that, and then having it where admin and active people involved in the portal could oversee the treasury is a really cool feature and gives a lot of power to it. So I love that idea personally.
Yeah, I mean, there's how the wallet structure will work, some form of multi-sig. But like, how does the voting work and things like that? It'll be up to the DAOs within those portals to decide. But portals having wallets is extremely possible, right? It's a fundamental that exists within Web3 right now, and I think there's a little bit of wiring up to do, but there's no reason why that shouldn't work.
Yeah, that's one I'm definitely going to be following closely because I don't know if you're up to date, but I have like probably 35 portals. not to brag, but yeah, last week Intrepo mentioned that they were talking with you about doing like portal listings, so you could sell a portal and stuff. So that was something that they mentioned. I'm not sure if that's something that's going to be in the near future or anything like that. But another thing that I was curiously keeping my eye on as a portal owner. Another question that I have for you is like, what do you believe like are going to be some of the key components to Discover's success?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the users and the community at the end of the day, right? Like we'll be developing features and creating unique ways to interact with the platform and allow communities to be composable and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's really going to require the lift of the users to make that possible. It's really going to require them to us and them to work together to kind of understand what is like create stronger definitions of how Web3 social is going to be different. And we think we have a lot of ways of deciding on how Web3 social is going to be different than Web2 social, but I do think it's going to be all up to the users at the end of the day. And if they take to the features or not, and it's really just flow, right? Like if it's simple, if it's easy to sign up with, they can get they can get within the platform. They can start interacting with the platform and adding value to the platform through generating content or discussions. That's kind of going to be that tipping moment of really making Web3 social and Discover a successful platform.
Yeah, I can see that. Community really means everything in the space, and I'll give Daniel like the last question before we open it up to the community here. But I really like that last answer, Rick.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, I think to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure you answered my question. I mean, you did a fantastic job knowing exactly what to give everyone about the platform. I mean, you've done just a fantastic job with speaking passionately about the stuff you guys are building, and I'm super happy to hear that you guys have a great team and there's a lot more stuff to come. So we should expect the wave of innovation coming from Discover to not end anytime soon. So it's like really awesome. And if you're okay with it, I would like to invite anyone who has questions to come on up and ask Rick whatever you'd like.
I could read through the comments quick, but a question in the thread: does Discover plan to integrate ETH or EVM compatible networks?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short. So right now in process is the ability to pair your Ethereum or your EVM based wallet to Discover profile, meaning you have your Discover principal, but then just like we have the ability to pair your Stoic, your Plug, your Bitfinity wallet, you'll have the ability to pair like a MetaMask wallet. And in practice, it's not in theory anymore. We'll be able to like airdrop like a Polygon based NFT or an Ethereum based NFT to Discover users.
Yeah, so that's obviously going to be huge. So that opens the floor up to a lot more, obviously with the Ethereum network and Polygon. And Polygon seems to have a lot more of like those big business collaborations. Like I'm pretty sure Nike and Disney are involved with Polygon. And like some of these big brands are making their way into the industry, and they just seem to be targeting the Polygon network right now. Aaron, it looks like you might have a question. Or
yeah, quick question. Hey Rick, great work on the platform. Is some of the earliest DAO tooling sort of stuff that communities could use, and it's super awesome. Inspiring to hear some of the future plans that you have. Quick question, like do you think at some point there might be some functionality for sort of like committing or staking either NFTs or fungible tokens in for like that kind of committed voting type stuff? Is that something that you consider like going just full out DAO tooling?
Yeah, there's two ways to answer that. The first way is, I guess this is the only way, is like we really want an ecosystem project to be like, hey, look, we've come up with the protocol for doing NFT staking, right? We've come up with the protocol to do different types of these mechanics, and as long as it's simple to integrate with, we have no problem integrating with them. And most likely, how these integrations will work, if it needs to be in a post, if it needs to be a new section within the airdrops area, we'd be more than happy to do that. Like, I think when ICP Swap, we started doing a lot of different things with ICP Swap when they started pumping out fungible tokens. And we were definitely able to be like, we could actually make it so the users could stake right within their the fungibles right within inside of their Discover profile. We definitely saw this path where like someone could just like click a button and use ICP Swap to liquidate all their fungible tokens into like ICP or something like that. And I think as DeFi hardens more and more, we'll be able to, on the IC, those things will be definitely possible. And like NFT voting was coded a long time ago, and we never released it because we couldn't figure out what the flow or the UI would really look like at the end of the day. But it was basically like the idea is that you owned NFT IDs 1, 2, 3, and 4, and if you voted on a proposal or on a poll, you would be voting with all those NFTs. But like now I see the direction of like DAOs are more of integrations. And since you have a Discover profile, and most likely within that Discover profile, you have NFTs stored or you have them stored within inside of a paired wallet, I do think we'll be able to revisit a lot of those paradigms and make it so you have NFT powered completely NFT voted and powered DAOs. So yes.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, it's kind of like Discover continues to kind of be the front end for a lot of things. So that's cool to see where your head's at. Thanks. Appreciate the answer.
No, great question. Thank you very much.
And looks like we have PD up here with a possible question. Hello, PD. Oh, PD, are you there?
Oh, sorry, my mic was off. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. All right. First and foremost, I appreciate you, Rick, and rest of the team for hopping on this Twitter space. It's definitely huge, just for the whole community, and kind of what is it? Expanding on that, anyone who isn't already on Discover that is listening now or will listen later, definitely get on that, because it's a really cool just atmosphere. And honestly, the stuff with the NFT stuff that Rick, you were mentioning about the possibilities, I think with the type of community we have on Discover, we could honestly run like a simulated test run with like Discover members that would be willing to, and kind of see how it would shape out that way. That's always a possibility for people that are willing to kind of help see what like a real world outcome would be. But yeah, I just like Daniel said, you did a really great job explaining everything and kind of your next steps and kind of the back end work as well. So yeah, I just wanted to chime in on that. Thanks again.
No, thank you very much. And definitely, I would say Discover folks are really open to experimentation. And you know pretty quickly whether it's a one-off or this is a trend or this is something that people are really interested in to continue to use. And I think the community is the perfect community to experiment with, because it's like a lot of very open-minded folks who are also trying to see how they can leverage decentralized social in different ways. And that's probably been some of the things that always keeps the platform, like for me, a lot of fun. You know, it's just all those different ways that people want to experiment with the platform. And I'm just thinking of all of the random experimentations that have happened over time. And I do think like the more of those, the better we hone in on unique ways of unlocking different types of consumer behavior within decentralized social. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean it sounds like you have the right mindset to get the job done, and I think all of us really appreciate that, and we're happy for Discover, and we're excited to see what you guys come up with next, especially with expanding the team, expanding the product, expanding the features. You know, being so Web3 centric, it's really awesome. Like all of it's really really cool. Do you have anything else you think the audience should know? Anything you want to anything extra you want to get out?
Yeah, you know, we're looking at a little bit more live features on Discover. We have a lot of features that are going to be rolling out in February, March that are going to be very user focused. And we're definitely going to be toying with the idea of having the ability to have a live chat very similar to this right within inside of Discover. A lot of the very similar features, but you know, more ability to engage with these Web3 primitives, right? Like an NFT gated live chat is going to happen. The ability to like tip tokens right within these conversations directly to the speakers, to the listeners, be able to whitelist listeners and speakers. NFT gifting is probably another big thing that's probably going to finally get its day. You know, NFT gifting is something that's been was really part of early Discover. I don't know if a lot of people remember it, but you used to be able to gift NFTs to posts.
You fucking nigger.
And I think, and yeah, and I think those are the type of things that we're probably going to see in the future.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing, and I'm super excited for that for sure.
Yeah. But that's about it. I think and if you guys, anyone's listening, they're looking to build communities, looking to do something new, reach out. We have Doug here too. He's really great about listening to the community and understanding their needs. So we'll try to get something set up for you right away.
Sorry about that. Whoever heard that, the space is recorded, so I had to remove that. Yeah. So another thing, like real quick, probably wrap it up in a little, like in just a few moments here. But for a lot of people that have joined Discover, like that was their first entryway to, you know, trying an NFT, and I think that is such a resourceful tool to be able to use. You know, it eliminates the barrier, and it really makes it where people don't have to, you know, sign up, do all these other additional wallets per se. So I do think that's going to be a very important like entryway for most people as they try Web3. Like, for instance, you know, Facebook, when that first started, or, you know, Twitter even, like having it where it's already integrated to the platform is just a simple barrier to the entryway of trying Web3. And I think you guys really nail it on the head, like, and getting it, you know, progressively better with your platform. And I'm sure most people here have already won an airdrop of some NFT of some sort. You know, and the awards, even like we just talked about that the other day, Rick. The awards even was a really cool feature that you guys had for the NFT airdrop, for, you know, acknowledging the projects that have really helped contribute to Discover. And I really hope to see that, you know, continue to inspire more creators to come to your platform and utilize the platform that you've built, because it is a very special platform, and 200,000 people about could vouch and agree with that. So congrats to you guys for the, you know, the early on success, and, you know, the pathway to continue to develop that.
Yeah, no, thank you. And absolutely, the team is unreal, the team we have right now, and we'll continue to grow. But like, it's when they hear things like this, they get so motivated, they get so excited. But I mean, I hope they're sleeping, but a lot of them, they're just pushing it around the clock right now to keep up with the growth. So it's very thankful for not only the community, but the team that has come together to help make Discover real.
And then any last questions here? Looks like we have MCL. I will invite them up. Hello, MCL.
Hi, Rick and Daniel. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, my question is about the Ethereum integration. Does the DSCVR have the plan, like the integrate the Ethereum NFT in the future, or any other feature like we can like do on cross chain to Polygon, or yeah. So
Yeah. MCL, I'm pretty sure we all couldn't really hear you well, but I did hear something about Ethereum integration, and a question with that, perhaps. Was that right? If you could just speak louder.
Yes. About the Ethereum integration, does the Discovery gonna integrate to the Ethereum NFT in the future, or cross-chain DeFi to the Ethereum Polygon? Yeah.
Yeah, good question. And as I was saying before, we're already in the process of achieving wallet pairing. So meaning we can actually link as up to you, but you can choose a wallet and you can link it, pair it to your Discover account. And this will be like, the requirement will be you'll sign a transaction from that wallet to prove that you own it. Very similar process to the current wallet pairing process. And cross-chain. super important to us. You know, there's already like the Bitcoin integration coming through Dfinity themselves, and I think we're going to see more of these cross-chain things happen over the next couple months to year for the IC, and we want to be right there when those happen and make sure that you can from Discover start accessing a lot of the things on other protocols that you're already used to accessing. So I think a multi-chain strategy is 100% on the horizon. So yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so maybe we'll probably rethink how we allow people up in the future, just so we don't deal with stuff like that. Maybe
That was
only
the most
holders.
interesting thing.
maybe that will be a thing that we can do, Rick, for those where holders can only come up and speak, or something with a gated access. But yeah, no, so we're still learning here. We're still learning.
Yeah.
If
I'm
I may
sorry
say,
for
something that I actually was thinking about, but forgot to mention too, was that no matter how great a community may seem, there's always got to be a couple people, you know, just
yeah.
one that that want to ruin it for everyone. But yeah, I mean,
It's open social.
It's whatever.
Yeah, it's just social. You know, it's like you get a lot of interesting characters, people wanting to test the edges of the system. It's just normal, right?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, that's typically how we find the rules that have come about. You know, like it creating. I mean, you know, for the social platform, it is the Wild West. Like you don't know what's gonna happen until you see it. So
Cool, awesome, guys.
yeah, I think that about wraps it up. So I appreciate everyone coming in and giving us their time and giving our guest Rick here the floor to speak. And I'm very appreciative of Discover and Rick and everything that they've done for internet computer and the ecosystem as a whole. And I'm super excited for the future that stems from that, with integrating multiple networks and doing the whole multi-chain, because that's really going to bring so much more users to the ecosystem, and that's truly what the IC needs. So I think everyone can kind of agree with that that path forward is going to be setting up just the whole ecosystem for success, but ultimately Discover will be gaining from that as well. So
awesome, man, awesome. Thank you, and thank you so much for having me. And to all the people out there who use Discover, thank you so much. It's definitely a huge motivator to wake up and see the platform and see all the interactions that are happening. So thank you.
Yep, we appreciate it, Rick. I will end the space now. So thank you all.
Thanks all for coming.
Later.